The Game Awards 2021 are slowly creeping around the corner, and per usual fanfare, Jeff Keighley is breaking out the tweets that have got fans guessing what will be revealed. His latest tweet teased a game world premiere that they had been entrusted with a developer for 2.5 years. There are no hints from the tweets except for the length of development, but Global Tour sounds like somewhere far and part of a major project. One of the possible games could be the sequel to Breath of the Wild, as it was first announced 2.5 years ago, and also a highly anticipated sequel. Breath of the Wild was a launch title for the Switch and has been an iconic Switch game from the beginning. Although it might not be Breath of the Wild 2, as there seems to be no other clues apart from the international travel hint and length of the game development. What do you think the big unveil will be? Let us know in the comments below. If you've seen Babylon's Fall footage or played recently in the closed network test, you may have seen something a little bit odd, or rather familiar with some of the gear and emotes used in the game. If you're wondering why they may have a similar look to the gear that's found in Final Fantasy XIV, that's because they are from Final Fantasy XIV. Platinum Games has explained that the assets in the Phase 3 of the closed beta test are actually borrowed from the MMORPG. Babylon's Fall's producer Yuzuki Saito explained in a post on the official community website for Babylon's Fall Hanging Garden that in a meeting with Final Fantasy XIV producer and director Naoki Yoshida actually offered up the assets to be used in Babylon's Fall. The reason for this is that it would help implement a much wider variety of gear and emotes in the game. Saito explains that most in-game gear is unique to Babylon's Fall and that the borrowed assets were used in the intro and mid-level range of the game. The implementation of the assets are being supervised by the Final Fantasy XIV team to make sure that they fit into the world. Babylon's Fall is in development for PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, PC, via Steam, and a release date has not been confirmed yet. Vampire the Masquerade Swansong, the RPG based on the tabletop game, has now been delayed to May 2022. Previously set to launch in February 2022, the game has been announced by developer Big Bad Wolf Studio to have been pushed by a few months. The message shared by Nacon revealed that the developer needs more time to focus on crafting the world that draws you in. The statement goes on to say that while the decision was not an easy one to make, it is in the mind of a healthy work-life balance for the team involved. Swansong was announced at PDXCon in 2019 as a narrative-driven RPG set in the Vampire the Masquerade universe. It is being developed by Big Bad Wolf, who released titles such as The Council, an episodic story-driven game with puzzles. Vampire the Masquerade Swansong will now release for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC via the Epic Games Store in May 2022. According to a recent Q3 2021 investors presentation for EG7, who is a Swedish game holding company that recently acquired the studio Daybreak Game Company, who developed DC Universe Online, their Texas-based branch Dimensional Ink Studios is working on a new Marvel MMORPG. The presentation included a slide titled Exciting Project Slate for 2022 and Beyond, which included some of the upcoming games the company is working on. It showed expected titles such as Lord of the Rings Online and DC Universe Online, as well as a mysterious unannounced MMORPG. It is described as a Marvel IP-based, massively multiplayer online game and a AAA title. It also shared that it was under Dimensional Ink Studios and led by Jack Emmert, who designed and was in charge of City of Heroes, as well as the current lead for DCUO. Another interesting point in the presentation slide includes that Lord of the Rings Online will be gaining a major revamp to upgrade visuals, modernize the experience, and release on consoles, which would release in anticipation of Amazon's new Lord of the Rings series, which is reported to have one of the biggest budgets. The next major update for Cyberpunk 2077 seems to be in development as developer CD Projekt Red shares that they are hard at work on it. In the third quarter 2021 report, the developer shares a slight update about the progress of the next update for the action RPG. PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X versions of Cyberpunk 2077 will release alongside the next major patch for all platforms, and it is expected to release in Q1 of 2022. Exactly what the patch will include is not currently known. The developer assures that the first major paid expansion is still ongoing, and the same goes for the next-gen version of The Witcher 3, which promises ray tracing and faster load speeds. The Witcher 3 next-gen versions were delayed this year and now expected to release sometime in Q2 of 2022, which could mean any time between April and the end of June. Although there have been delays with these updates, CD Projekt Red affirms that both Cyberpunk 2077 and The Witcher 3 next-gen versions are currently on track to meet their target dates. Bethesda has released the first episode for the new video series that focuses on Starfield called Into the Starfield. In the 7-minute mini documentary, it shows snippets of Starfield. The video called The Endless Pursuit shows concept art and a few shots of robots, alien worlds, and even a spaceport. The episode focuses mainly on the evolution of the Bethesda game studios and the worlds it has built over the course of the studio's life. It shows games from the Elder Scrolls series and Fallout. Now Bethesda is heading to space, and art director Matt Carathano explains that Starfield will be more realistic, science-based backing to it when compared to previous fantasy-based games such as Skyrim. Starfield is coming to Xbox Series X and S and PC on November 11th, 2022, as well as Xbox Game Pass on day one launch. Dead Cells has been ramping up the content recently after releasing their free update 26, which added a number of crossovers with indie titles such as Hollow Knight, Blasphemous, and more. The next DLC coming to the game takes the title The Queen and the Sea. The latest teaser trailer hints of a new evil in town who sends her minions to take down the prisoner, the Dead Cells main character. The latest tweet from the developer shares this is the epic conclusion to the DLC trilogy. The trailer reveals that the Queen and the Sea DLC will be releasing for platforms PlayStation 4, Switch, Xbox One, and PC via Steam in Q1 2022 for $4.99 USD. The DLC will add alternate biomes to explore at the end of each run, which are the High Peak Castle, Derelict Distillery, and Throne Room according to the Steam page. Dead Cells is currently available to play on PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, iOS, and Android. The Queen and the Sea DLC releases in Q1 2022. PlayStation is bringing Christmas early as they have announced titles Mortal Shell, Godfall, and more are joining PlayStation Plus this December. Joining the PlayStation Plus subscription service this December includes the challenging action RPG Souls-like Mortal Shell on PlayStation 4. Then there's the looter slasher RPG Godfall Challenger Edition for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, as well as LEGO DC Supervillains, The Persistence, The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, and Until You Fall as well. On the PlayStation blog, it details that all games will be available from December 7th until January 3rd. Mortal Shell released last year in August, bringing its own fresh take on the Souls-like genre. With the use of shells, players can equip and adopt its abilities as well as special skills. If you're diving into Mortal Shell, be sure to check out our Mortal Shell guides and drop by our Mortal Shell wiki for any help needed. Godfall takes a different approach to the action RPG genre, focusing on close-range melee combat in this looter slasher. Players can team up together with up to 3 players in a group. The post states that it will be the Godfall Challenger Edition, which has 3 unique modes, Lightbringer Dreamstones, and the Ascended Tower of Trials. These are 3 endgame content levels, however you'll be able to immediately equip a number of weapons and skill points. These modes will let you team up with up to 2 other players in co-op, which is compatible with all upgraded Godfall editions and also supports cross-gen play. Kingdoms of Amalur got a remastered version which launched in September of 2020. The title received all the previous DLCs including the Legends of Deadkel and Teeth of Naras. A brand new DLC, Fatesworn, was announced previously and will now be launching on December 14th, 2021. The Steam page outlines that the expansion will introduce a new storyline, a new environment, new quests and missions. There will also be new Chaos Realm dungeons, a new gameplay mechanic, new weapons, armor, new enemies to face, and much more. The level cap will also be raised to 50, and the DLC will even feature a new soundtrack by famous composer Grant Kirkhope. Don't forget, December 6th will be the last chance to download PlayStation Plus's November games, which includes the remastered classic Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning. If you want to know our thoughts on this title, be sure to check out our video next, Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning Review Remaster Impressions, Is It Worth It? The Ascent has now received its first paid DLC, which is a Cybersec pack that adds 2 new weapons, the NetMLG Grenade Launcher and Recoil Burst Rifles, a new tactical called the GR00P Cluster Grenade, 4 new pieces of armor, and 4 new animated weapon skins, all available for $4.99 USD. Also available is a free new update that introduces a new transmog feature, meaning indents can now change their look to match the visual armor style of any gear currently in their inventory. In case you missed it, the action RPG title The Ascent made our top 5 upcoming RPGs of July in 2021, offering both solo and co-op action. The Cyberpunk game by Neon Giant brings classic RPG mechanics, allowing players to build their own characters. Dive into a world full of verticality as you explore a giant skyscraper while freely roaming the rundown world. The combat is described as fast-paced with plenty of enemies to blast away. If you're curious to know what we thought of the Ascent, be sure to check out our The Ascent review impressions, a Cyberpunk world worth exploring. Well, that's it for the week in the wikis. Please join us again next week for yet another great week of gaming. Remember to check out our VIP program for some exclusive supporter benefits. And budding writers should take advantage of our Become an Author initiative. Thanks again for being part of this great community. Keep checking in with us with news, reviews, YouTube streams and vids, and general wiki goodness.